Dear devotees of Chicago Bari, now we welcome you to our second lecture by Sri Ram Ramanujam from West Virginia area for his second lecture on the astronomy and the astrology aspect of the satsang. Thank you.
Yes, Shriman Narayana. Hope all of you are doing good. And you heard the first series of our lecture. It was devoted, the first one was more devoted towards how our Vedic seers envisioned time. Time as a component of our universe is something that they envisioned for people living in the various worlds, such as ours. Earth is just one of them, and we saw how the universal creation happens, how there's a timelessness, there is time even when there is no creation, and there's time when there is creation. And we also looked at the aspects of how the universe is held together with what is called the Adara Shakti. The Adara Shakti is what enables the entire universe to be, in motion, to be held in motion even while traveling at speeds of thousands and thousands of miles per hour through our entire universe. It travels great distances, yet there's not a single planet that's going astray. There's not a single body that loses its track. There's always adjustment in the way our planets, our interstellar galaxies work. They all work in unison with Adara Shakti. We saw that aspect of it last time in terms of how we're all made up of. And today we want to kind of ground us all in the world that we currently live in. In our normal sense, we call it the Milky Way, and the sun being at the center of it in terms of how we get light. Light as being this single source of energy for us that enables all the creatures to have a full life, not just humans, plants, animals, everything drive off of light, including insentient things, right? They need light. So in order to kind of look at deeper into where we are, we just have this contraption actually. It's a diagram which kind of shows our place in this whole cosmos, but focusing on just sun and its planetary systems. Today our focus is going to be how the sun sets where we are today being the we are at what the day today is Sunday, March the 14th. March the 14th today actually is a very important day as far as astronomy goes, as far as our Indian calendar goes. We'll talk about those aspects with respect to where we are in our revolution around the Earth. So if you imagine the sun to be at the center, right, and the Earth is revolving around it, this may not be to scale, and it's not elliptical. Even though we go around it slightly elliptical, it's not totally circular. Just for the purposes of demonstration, we have it as a circle. Now, um, with respect to the sun, the Earth is at this point. The one thing I want to stress is all the planetary systems, everything, our moon revolves around the Earth in an anti-clockwise direction. The Earth revolves around the sun in an anti-clockwise direction. The sun itself is rotating and going around in the universe in an anti-clockwise direction. Everything, every galaxy revolves in an anti-clockwise direction. But in our normal lives, when we go do pradakshina around the god, we always say clockwise direction, right? We'll get to that, do those aspects of why we do certain things in terms of pradakshina, and why everything is going in an up pradakshina direction. There's definitely a reason why that happens. Now, if you look at the Earth, we were, you know, so if you look at the space around us, in terms of the sun, this view is actually a top level view. If you were to be above the Milky Way and looked from the top and looked at all the planets going around the sun, this is the view that you're going to see. What you're going to see is the Earth is at this position. What our ancestors have done for us is they've divided up the circle around the sun into 11 pies. 12, sorry. So they've divided up into 12 equal pies. Each pie actually represents a month in our Indian calendar, as per Sauramana system. Okay, both calendars, which I'm going to introduce what's called the Sauramana, which means by looking at the effects or impact of sun's rays on us, we define a certain month. Okay, and likewise, the moon's going around the Earth defines what's called Chandramana. So there are two important aspects to kind of keep in mind. There are two systems of timekeeping, which is the Earth's revolution, around the sun, and the moon's revolution around the Earth. So that defines a certain month for us. But today, where we are is in a very important junction, which happens to be like this. We were in Kumbha Masa. So we were in Kumbha Masa until yesterday. Magha Masa, as many people may know, is where we were. Uh, Kumbha Mela. Many people may have heard of Kumbha Mela, where it's very important to take bath in holy waters of India during those months. So Magha Masa or Kumbha Masa is an extremely important month. From Kumbha Masa, we are actually going into Palguni or Panguni. Today happens to be the Meena Masa. It's called, in Sanskritam, it's called Meena Masa, and in our Indian dialects, it's called Panguni or Palguni. Right? Many people must have heard about Palguni. There's a reason for the Palguni, and we'll get to those aspects of it and why the names came up. In terms of how the moon's effect on how it goes around gives us the name of the months. It's a very important thing to understand that there's the sun here, there's the earth here, and there's a moon, right? The moon, if you look at it, it's lined up with the sun today. Yesterday was Amavasya. Yesterday was Amavasya. Amavasya meaning it's the new moon, right? So when that happens, we don't see, when our nighttime happens on this side of the earth. If you're on this side of the earth, what happens is you don't see the moon at all in the sky. It's dark. That's what Amavasya really is. So Amavasya is where the moon is on or right behind the earth, and it sits right there. And today happens to be a starting day of 2 months. If you're following the calendar, which is called the Amavasya calendar, meaning the month starts from Amavasya, it's called Palguni. And in certain eastern parts of India, what they follow is going to be the Purnimanta, meaning every Paurnami or every new moon, full moon, is going to be a name of a month. That was also Palguni. That Palguni started 15 days earlier than what we have today. But they all mean the same, and I'll get to why we have that name even given to us. If so, now you've seen the moon on where it is. We know the Earth is exactly where it needs to be. We are in a transition of going from 1 month, which is the Kumbha Masa or the Magha Masa, going into Palguni. It's also called the Meena Masa here, right? Around this place that you see are all the constellations. The constellations that we know of, that are things like, Pisces, Aries, Aquarius, Taurus. All of them have names here. They're the constellations that comprise of what we call the nakshatra. So when you stand, on this earth, on a high mountain, for example, and there is no light pollution, what you would see is all the stars all around us in the sky. That exactly is what this represents. It's all of the stars that you see on a given day in terms of the wherever we are. As you know, space is multidimensional. It's just not three-dimensional like we have in today's on the earth. It's multidimensional. It's got 10 dimensions. um, Having said that, the moon today is in Amava, is Amavasya. It's positioned like this. And if for those of you that know the Indian calendar or follow it, if you look at where the moon is pointing to in terms of the sky, it's lined up to Uttara Bhadra. Uttara Proshtapada or Uttara Bhadra is the name of the nakshatra. So if you look at the Indian calendar today, it will be Uttara Bhadra. It's so simple in terms of how they have laid out our the calendar based on a diagram like this on our surroundings. Now, when I'm going to tell you something about this moon, the moon now is going to go around in a anti-clockwise direction. As it moves from being the dark guy here, it's going to, when we kind of move around like that, is when we change, right? And he's going to be here. It's going to be the half moon. The half moon is what's going to be the ashtami, what we call the ashtami, the half of the whole thing. And when that happens, the earth is also moving, around the sun. Likewise, the moon is going to be traveling, never crosses the earth. It travels in a wave-like formation around the earth. It just goes like that in a wave around the formation. And then when it becomes the full moon, right, in another 15 days, 29th of March. 29th of March is going to be a full moon. Okay, when the 29th of March is going to be a full moon. So yeah, the 29th of March is going to be a full moon. Where's Putra Pulguni? So yeah, sorry, it's right here. So 29th of March, when it's going to be, you can take a look at your calendars. It will be Palguni Nakshatra. The nakshatra will be Uttara Palguni or Purva Palguni. One of those nakshatras will fall on the day that the moon is going to be full in 15 days. That is the reason why we get the name of the month as being a Palguni month. So the Palguni month is derived not just based on where we are, but based on where the moon is in relation to where the earth is. So one of the key aspects to remember now from this is we defined time by looking at our planetary systems or bodies that are around us. The moon is one of the most important members of that help us define where we are. So if the moon is pointing towards Palguni, Uttara Palguni, like it is here, that's what defines the nakshatra of the day. So the nakshatra of the day that we define, we'll get to the details of how we derive those things, but I just want to kind of give you a feel for what today is. Today being the transition of a month, in two different aspects. Even the Sauramana month had its transition from Kumbha to Meena, which is Magha to Palguni. And also today also happens to be a day where we all perform something called Savitri Vratam, right? The Savitri Vratam is something that in South India that they perform Karadayam Nombu. So the Nombu is an important event of the day that we perform in the South. The important aspect that I want to kind of stress upon in our culture, in our system, is whether it's eastern part of India or the western part of India. This was days when we did not have YouTube, we did not have Google. People did not know what they did, but they knew that there is Savitri Vratam to be done. And Savitri happens to be such an important person in our Puranas, that she was extolled for one thing. She was a woman. She was a woman, and she was somebody that was very persistent. When you do tapasya, it doesn't have to be a man or a woman. Tapasya does not distinguish between who does that tapasya. She chose a husband, and even though he was in exile, he was a prince without any kingdom, without any wealth. She did tapasya. She took care of her in-law. She took care of her family. The tapasya that she did as a woman gave her the shakti to even bargain with Yamaraja. When Yamaraja kind of comes to take away her husband, she got enough of the power, being a normal human being, leading a dharmic, Vedic life. She was an absolute dharmic lady. She was an absolute Vaidika lady. She was not a Brahmin or anything. The caste system doesn't matter here, but she was somebody that took charge of her life and made it better by being able to cleverly bargain, cleverly argue with Yamaraja himself. And he, being the adjudicator of being the one that is always fair, made sure the lives was great. And that's big reason why across India we make sure that either it is today, which most South Indians follow the Sauramana calendar, celebrate today as Karadayan Nombu, including young kids that have not gotten married, right? They want to instill the fact that Savitri like tapasya can be done by anybody. And that's why even Kumaris, people that have not gotten married, also celebrate today by wearing the sacred thread around their necks. That's the most important thing I want to kind of bring out, having been on talking about this on an important day like this, that empowers and shows that our women are also somebody that they can do things that are dharmic and Vedic, that really provide great results. So, having said that, right, in other parts of India, for example, eastern parts, they celebrate it on Jeshta Amavasya. Okay, so it's important for us to not only recognize the fact that our festivals are important. In order to celebrate the festivals, we need to know on what days to celebrate them. And when we celebrate those festivals on days like this, there's a significance to how the moon is positioned. You know, we'll talk about when it comes to Jeshta Masa. There's got to be Jeshta Masa right here, right? But as a Masa, right, that's called a Mithuna Masa. So it's months away for us to be celebrating it in the eastern side. So there's different times and in which different parts of the country celebrate certain festivals, but the purport or the Puranic reason why they celebrate is pretty much the same. Savitri is a common component across all our cultures. This when it is an Amavasya in these months is when the eastern parts, the northern parts of India celebrate the same Savitri Vratam or Nombu that we set up, that the South Indians celebrate. Cuts across caste system, cuts across anything. So our planetary bodies play such an important role in determining what part of the year we are in, where we are, and things of that nature. Now, coming back to where we are in terms of the layout here, as you might see, the Earth, we said the Earth is like right there. Today being Amavasya, the Amavasya is like, like that. We don't see the moon. Uh, we have the constellations around us. When you look at it, there's constellations all around. These constellations are nothing but the stars. And based on their formation, they were given different names. In the next couple lectures or so, we'll get deeper into the divisions and how the divisions make up the nakshatras themselves, how we determine a nakshatra, how our the pie here that you see, right, which constitute a month in a solar month that we call, how 2 months of a solar month make up our ritu meaning seasons, right? We are still in Shishira Ritu, Right now, we are still in Shishira Ritu. Now, we're going to go as we travel into the next month, we will be in Vasanta Ritu. So, how we transition from one Ritu to another, all of those aspects we are going to start covering to help us understand not only our rich Vedic heritage, but also how the timekeeping works with the planetary bodies in place. So, the one aspect I want to cover probably next week is the moon itself. The moon plays an extremely important role for us. Unlike many Western, not just the philosophy, but even the astronomy, they consider moon as being something that is stuck in Earth's gravitational forces. Frankly, that's not true. You will see how the moon plays such an important role in the Earth being able to function and be what it is. Chandra is a devata. He occupies an extremely important place along with Surya. And there are not just one moons, right? Every big planetary body in the universe has a moon, to stabilize themselves. So the moon defines the tithi, meaning the phase of the moon defines an important component for us, for our calendar. So also the moon is what determines what nakshatra we see. So the moon is got a lot of different roles to play for us. We'll talk about those aspects, and also simple things, right? I'm going to leave with a few thoughts today. Is There are things like, hey, if everybody has a week, when you say a week has only 7 days. Why can't there be 10 days in a week? Pretty much across all cultures, across all religions, it's a 7-day week. And we'll get to why we all started to see the week as being the 7 days. And of course, I already threw you a hint. The moon is who defines uh, our month, the 30 days that we have, the 7 days of the week. Everything is related to this one particular body that's so important for for us to keep time. So we'll talk about those aspects in the next coming weeks. But today, if you look at it, we got the sun here, we got the moon that's going around us. One important aspects, like as the Earth keeps going in this direction, the moon's always playing catch up, right? It's going to be like that, and the Earth would have already moved further. So the moon never ever goes around the Earth like that. It always goes in a wave. It's always trying to play catch up. So that's an important aspect I want to leave you guys with. It may seem like a science class, but it's very important for us to understand how our planetary bodies move. What I want to really impress is all of these things our great rishis had studied and left us with. It's all there in the Vedas. It's up to us to kind of dig deeper and understand our own, teachings, and how our component of where we are is being greatly influenced by the sun and the moon. And the sun and the moon are considered to be the two eyes of the of Sriman Narayana. So they play a very important role in defining our months, defining our seasons, defining our festivals that we celebrate, how we not only celebrate the day, all the devatas, our pitrus, right? Everything is defined by these two important planetary bodies. And I want to kind of uh, leave us with the thoughts with the prayers to Surya and Chandra. We'll revisit next week in terms of how they define our months and our years and our weeks. Alrighty. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Jai Shriman Narayana.
It's such an interesting and such a vast subject, that one really is mind-boggling, that one. Amazing, how the planetary system is and how it is going around, how big the universe is. Considering, the size of the universe, our Earth is nothing but just an atom. That's what, in terms of the size and thing, and we see so much activities in such an atom in Earth, and we wonder what's going on in the universe. With that, question, we will conclude today that on our satsang. Thank you very much, and looking forward for next week. Thank you.
Thank you for your opportunity.